Hello, welcome to La Quinta Book Fest Revisited. Since we were unable to host Book Fest 2021 here at the library, we thought we'd reconnect with previous panelists to see what they've been up to and talk about their latest projects. I spoke with author, podcast, and award-nominated radio personality Tod Goldberg about the latest book in his Gangsterland universe, The Low Desert. It's a short story collection about how thin the line between good and bad can be while exploring the inner lives of gangsters and goons and all those in between. Some of the stories are even set in the Coachella Valley. We also talked about his dog, Rube Goldberg, his upcoming adaptation of the Gangsterland books, and what's next after the Gangsterland series. I hope you enjoyed this segment of BookFest Revisited. Okay, let's do it.
All right, I'm ready.
Well, what have you been up to apart from getting this book ready for the world? What have you been up to in our quarantine time?
Well, like everybody else, I have reached the actual end of Netflix. I've reached the end of the universe, and I have seen the backside of it. Mm-hmm. So I've watched everything on Netflix. I watched everything on Amazon Prime. I convinced my wife that we should get Hulu. I watched all of Hulu.
Okay.
But then, just in time, Jade, HBO Max came online, and they've got all the forensic shows. So I'm doing all that. I have to tell you, is it just us and the viewers? I've been super productive.
Well, that's good.
Now, I'll admit, like during the first month of our quarantine, I was just like everybody else. Like I couldn't think, I couldn't process information. I was eating a lot of marshmallows and cheese-based food items. But then the book that we're going to talk about today, The Low Desert, my final edits were due at the end of April. And I realized at some point, I have to do those or they're going to want the money back. So I had an awakening, not like a QAnon awakening, just a normal awakening one morning. And I realized, I got to get to work. I'm a professional. Finishing a book is not unlike quarantine anyway. I sort of sit at home in sweatpants and drink coffee and cry. And so I'm just going to get in and do it. And what ended up happening is I finished the book at the end of April, the last rewrites. But then I had all these other jobs I had to do. I was I wrote a screenplay. I was working on the adaptation of my book's Gangsterland. I was doing a bunch of stuff. And it was great. I had all the free time. No one was bothering me. I wasn't expected to go anywhere or do anything. So that was super productive. And then, when the fall came, I got a little interested in saving American democracy. So that took time, and that required me to also go and troll people on Nextdoor and things like that, and that takes a lot of my time.
Yes.
But the real big thing for me, honestly, no joking, has been maintaining connections with the people that I love, and talking to my friends, and talking to my family, and talking to my students, and reminding them that there's going to be another side, and that we're going to be in that other side together, and that the distance between us is physical, but it's not emotional. And that's really been a lifesaver for me during this time. And, I have a lot of friends and family that are writers and artists and stuff as well. And a lot of them have been very creative, but a lot of them have been super stifled because it's hard to get beyond the fear and the trauma of what we're going through to try to create entertainment. And I think that's true for a lot of people. I've been lucky in this regard that, I have the privilege of my job and of being able to write books for a living also. And that's allowed me to feel safe, and that's allowed me to be creative. Mm-hmm. The one thing I am a little worried about, I have to be honest with you, is our dog is never alone. Mm-hmm. So what's going to happen when we get to leave the house? Is the dog going to freak out? So I have a dog named Rube Goldberg, because if you have a chance to name a dog Rube Goldberg, you take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And right now she's just at a camera view. She's adorable. But I also am she also has taken to being I'm going to go in the other room and I'm going to lay down in there, and please don't
come here.
Talk to me.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I have really noticed Rube sometimes will just be I'm just going to.
I'm out.
Yeah, I'm going to go into the guest room, and I don't want you in there, particularly the fat guy. I don't want him in there.
Don't follow me.
Don't follow me, Todd. And cover me with kisses and call me little names. I'd like to be alone and quiet. So that is my existential concern for the animal kingdom.
Yeah. My dog, I feel like, definitely went through a little bit of a separation anxiety between me being at home for quite some time, and then it was like I was back at work, and she was like, "Where did you go? You weren't supposed to leave." So, but she adjusted all right, and
she'll be fine.
Other people at home, so she's okay. Yeah. So let's talk about your new book.
Do you mean The Low Desert?
The Low Desert. Look at that.
I just so happen to have a copy right here.
Where is that picture from on the cover? Is that...
Well, if I stand in my backyard, I can line up the mountains on the cover with the mountains behind me. So as Jade knows, but as the listeners don't, Jade and I are actually neighbors. And so I believe this is, the photo is actually just east of us.
East, okay.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
In the process of, talking to my editor and the art directors and all that stuff, I was like, I want this cover to really feel like you've stumbled into a scene where someone's been buried in the middle of the desert. And they were like, oh, we got it. And then they sent me that cover, and I was like, oh my God, you got it. You're right.
Someone could be buried just east of us.
Yeah, so cool. So cool.
Yeah, it's so fun when I come across a book that is set in the desert, because you just, growing up here, I never really read anything that was set out here, and just so to read something about our hometown, I just kind of thought it was a small world. I mean, I know Coachella Fest and Palm Springs are big names, but it still always felt kind of small to me. So to see it in publication is always kind of cool.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's like when you see it in a TV show or in a movie, and you're like, that's not Arizona.
Yeah.
That's
I know that place.
Yeah. And, for me, writing about the desert, I've always sort of written about the desert. I'm not one of those people that believes that you write what you know. I typically write what I don't know, the things that I'm interested in learning more about, or which, confound me on some emotional level. But writing about the desert has been a constant. Like in my first book, there's a big chunk that takes place in Palm Springs. And that book came out 20 years ago. But, I'm fascinated by resort cities in general, and in the transitive nature of the people who both live here and then pass through. The neat thing about a resort town is people come here and pretend to be someone else. They come and they reinvent themselves, or, they can pretend that they didn't have whatever life they had somewhere else. And I like that. It's sort of, it's not terribly dissimilar from what people often do in Las Vegas. But, people don't expect too much from new folks in the desert. They say, oh, I was an FBI agent. People are like, oh, he was an FBI agent. People believe it. I don't know why.
So this is a collection of short stories, right? That is part of your Gangsterland world.
Universe. My Gangsterland Marvel universe.
Yes. I'm almost finished with it. I have 3 stories left to go. And yes.
Well, there's a last story that you're going to read that's going to shock you.
I loved the first story. The ending of the first story was like, I was like, what's behind me now? I have to look over my shoulder all the time. Goo number 4, I really loved that story. That was a good one. That was a really fun one. And
Goo
Mazel
number 4,
too.
which takes place at COD, oddly enough.
Yes, that was a really cool story to read on the radio station. And Mazel was really a really cool story too.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed these.
There's the front note of the book is a quote from the Talmud that says, a prisoner cannot free himself. And in all of these books in the Gangsterland universe, I've used the Talmud as the front note, because often the stories at some level are about faith and about losing faith or finding faith. And I'm not talking about Christianity or Judaism or any other standard religion as much as I'm talking about spirituality and a code that you live by. And in each of the stories in this book, the characters are given an opportunity, either tangible or emotional, to free themselves, they often make the wrong choice.
Yes.
And that causes some problems. But, you know, I try to write about characters. So, like, for instance, in Goon number 4, so Goon number 4 is about a goon, the guy in the background. So whenever I watch TV shows or movies, I'm always interested in that dude in the background wearing the suit, holding the briefcase, who drops it in front of the boss and opens it up and there's the diamonds or whatever. I'm like, how did that dude get that job?
Yeah.
Like, is he happy in his job? So I had this idea in my head for years and years of like, oh, I really want to write about a goon. And then one day, in fact, I was out to lunch with Rob Bowman, who teaches English at Indio High School and is in my MFA program and is a good dear friend of mine. And we just started sort of riffing about writing about, you know, these background characters. And all of a sudden, this story came into full view where I have this guy who realizes, oh God, I've been that background goon my entire life. And now I just want to go back to school and just, you know, have a normal life. But it's hard to separate everything you've learned when you're trying to learn something new. And I wanted to explore in a satirical way that dichotomy, that if you are a trained killer and a goon, how do you change yourself to go be in a classroom or say work at a community college radio station? I'm not saying it's KCOD, where I'm an award-nominated radio personality. But it's not KCOD. And he has to, you know, he's in classes and he takes his assignments a little too seriously and he makes some choices that don't free him, for sure. I love to tell those kinds of stories that poke fun at the thing that I do seriously. So to write a satirical story about a hitman, assassin, goon guy, and then 2 stories later have a story that's about that same kind of guy that's taken seriously is a challenge for me, because I'm like, I'm showing you that I know this is absurd and silly, this thing that I've chosen to build literally my house around. But also that I can entertain you with both. And that's the sort of thing that keeps me getting up and going to the computer in the morning, frankly.
I can't wait to finish it. And I'm excited for our readers to definitely get a chance to read it as well. And it comes out on February 2nd. So in just a couple of weeks. That's exciting.
I can't wait. I mean, I will wait, but I can't wait.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think especially just reading it right now and just for the times we're in, one of the sentences or little phrases I liked a lot was, cling to the good. That is what the Talmud tells us. Release yourself of the regrets and anger. That was from Mossel, and I really just liked that line. I thought it was just especially fitting for just kind of where we are right now.
Yeah, it's something I believe, you know. You know, I don't always put a lot of myself in my stories, but when I was writing that one, I'll tell you the story of that story, actually. It's a good story. I have a friend named Christy Cade, and Christy is my #1 biggest fan. She's been my biggest fan since my first book came out 21 years ago. I found her on LiveJournal talking about my book. And for the next 21 years, she's been my friend and #1 biggest fan. And I send her all my books. And she got cancer this last year. And they didn't know if she was going to live. And she contacted me and she said, I've got cancer. I don't know if I'm going to live. And, you know, I was worried and scared and sad. And so we were talking off and on online and chatting. And I said, look, let me, you know, send you the book early because you're my #1 fan. That way you get to read it early.
Yeah.
So I did that. And I said, but, you know, maybe I can write something for you. And she's like, oh, that'd be wonderful if you wrote something. And then she had this amazing day that I've fictionalized a little bit. She was driving home from chemotherapy in Florida, and she had her windows down, and she was speeding. And her hair was flying off of her head while she drove down the freeway. And she just wanted to feel the wind in her hair one last time. Yeah. Because she knew it was all going to go. And she got pulled over by a cop. And the cop pulls her over and says, you're going 85 miles an hour. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I think I'm dying of cancer. This is my last day that I'm going to have hair. I just wanted to feel the wind in my hair for one last time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was speeding. That's what I was doing. And the cop says, get out of the car. And she's like, oh shit, what have I done?
Yeah.
So she gets out of the car and the cop hugs her. And he says, you're not going to die today. You're going to make it through this. If you keep going this fast, you could die today.
Yeah. Yeah.
But don't die today. You're not going to die today. Don't die today. And you're going to make it through this. And he hugged her, said, you're free to go. She got up in her car and she drove away sobbing. And I was like, I'm going to memorialize this in a weird way.
Yeah.
In this story with this character that I know that you like. I hadn't intended to write a short story that had Sal Cupertine, the Rabbi David Cohen from my books as the rabbi in it. But then I was like, I'm going to put you in this story. You get to live inside the story forever.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's
So
a beautiful
I did that.
story.
And she's well right now. She's in remission, so that's good. And she's got her hair back. She had really great doctors in Florida, and she had a rough time. She had a really rough time. But she's doing good right now. And so that story is for her.
Oh, that gives me goosebumps. That's awesome. I love that so much. Oh, yeah. I'm so excited to finish this, and I think our readers are really going to love it.
I hope so. I hope so. But yeah, I'm excited for this new book and excited for readers to get a chance to see it. And then I promise after that I'm going to write the third and concluding chapter in the Gangsterland series. I promise.
Okay, good. I'm halfway through Gangsterland and really, really enjoy it. I can't say that I've read too many mafia type stories. So this has been really, really fun. So what is, besides the third book for that series, what's up next for you? You said you were working on a screenplay. That's exciting.
Yeah, I've been devoting some time to writing more screenplays, writing some pilots, working on the adaptation of the Gangsterland books. So the Gangsterland books have been optioned by a great team of folks. I might tell you who it is, but it would be breaking a non-disclosure agreement. That's fine. But if you look at the back of The Low Desert, you can figure it out. Okay. On the acknowledgements page. But it's been, I can tell you that Amazon optioned it, but who I'm working with, I cannot begin to tell you. So we've been working on that, and that's been a lot of fun. And so we'll continue doing that for a bit. And then I'm going to start working on the new Gangsterland novel. And then after that, I really want to explore more a character and story that is in the Low Desert, which is the title story of the Low Desert, about the beginnings of the Salton Sea in the 1950s and 1960s, and its relationship to organized crime as well. I've built this whole separate organized crime universe at the Salton Sea. I've been trying to figure out how to write it for many, many years, in fact. And it finally all clicked in when I was working on this book. So that's another thing that I want to work on. I worked hard to get to the point in my life where I thought writing would be easier, and it's not. But I take such joy from it now. I used to feel like it was a real struggle, and now it's just a joy to be able to sit down and do the work. And I mean, part of that's about clinging to the good. Like, this is the thing that makes me happy, and this is the thing that fulfills me. And on the other side of it, it gives other people joy. And I think that's an important thing in the world right now, is to try to spread a little bit of happiness. I mean, obviously my happiness is weird. It comes with a lot of dead bodies, and murder clowns and things like that. But it provides its own joy in its own specific way.
Yes, definitely. Before I let you go, is there anything else you want to promote? Any upcoming book talks people can watch you, listen to you at?
Yeah, there's a ton of live online events I'll be doing in the month of February. So if you go to todgoldberg.com/events, or just go to todgoldberg.com, you can find the events page there. And then all through February and also into March, I'll be doing events at different bookstores and venues, sitting right here probably wearing this shirt.
That same background.
In the same background, in Zoom boxes around the world. But you can also listen to me every couple of weeks, every 2 weeks, with my co-hosts, Ryder Strong and Julia Pastel, on my inexplicably wildly popular podcast, Literary Disco. This last episode, Jade, can I tell you, this last episode we had George Saunders on, and I was super nervous. I was super
awesome.
nervous.
That's amazing. I bet.
I was super, and I was like, why am I nervous?
I'm sweating. Why am I nervous? Why? What's happening?
I should not be nervous about this. And Ryder, he was super nervous. He's like, why am I nervous? I don't ever get nervous about this. Julia was placid. But the two of us are like, ee! And then he was so nice and so cool. And so I'm pretty sure that George Saunders and I are going to be super close friends.
Best friends.
Best friends forever.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So you can find me in all those places. And the events page on todgoldberg.com is always updated with the new stuff. So you can find me there. And then for those of you who live in the Coachella Valley, when we're back in person again, which will be at some point, I promise you, we'll be back to doing a full slate of in-person author and movie events at UCR Palm Desert. I really miss everybody and getting out there and chatting with you guys and seeing you enjoying books and movies and everything. And I know I speak for Maggie also that we'll get back to doing open book for all of you also. These are things that we really like doing, and unfortunately the pandemic has separated us from some of those things. We get to do them online, but it's not as much fun as doing them in front of a live audience, you know, once or twice a month. So we'll be doing that again soon. So keep your eye out.
Great. Yeah, I'm excited for your talk with Maggie about your book.
I'm looking forward to it too. I hope she reads it.
Just a little bit at least. Oh, well, Todd, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with me.
Happy to do it.
And I will see you around the neighborhood.
Yeah, I'll see you walking your dog right there.
Yes. Right there. Just out there. Okay. All right. Let's. Thanks for watching our BookFest Revisited series. See below for links to the author's social media pages and links to our catalog if you want to request any of their titles. Want to be notified when our newest videos come out? Click or tap on the red subscribe button. Happy reading!